evening, and welcome to the 6th annual Little Black Dress Night. My name is Tiara Wheatley, and I am the assistant principal of Chicago Tech Academy and the founder of the Young Women's Leadership Society. I am sure that many of you are finishing a full day of Zoom meetings, so I appreciate you joining us for yet another Zoom conference. However, I can assure you that this is not your typical Zoom meeting. I like to think of this as Zooming for a purpose. First, I'd like to review a few norms. We will be monitoring the chat box and the Q&A box throughout the event. If you're just joining us, please introduce yourself in the chat box. Tell us your name, where you're from, and how you are connected to Chicago Tech Academy. Once our panel starts, please feel free to drop questions in the Q&A box. Guests will be allowed to upvote questions and we'll select those with the most votes for our panelists to answer. We encourage you to engage with other attendees and engage in meaningful conversations via the chat box. Next, I have to acknowledge some amazing people and organizations that have supported us in planning this event through sponsorships, time, and an endless amount of resources. First, our gold and silver sponsors: Active Campaign, So Me Connect, Ahead, Barack, Ferrazano, Kirschbaum, and Nagelbert LLP, DRW, Motorola Solutions Foundation, National Restaurant Association, and Zebra. Secondly, I was blessed a little over a year ago to meet Colleen Egan at another Women in Tech event. And in that year, she has become an amazing role model, partner in this work, and friend. The way Colleen has supported Chi-Tech and Little Black Dress Night is the true definition of what it means to show up. Through introductions, endless phone calls and video conference, and connections, Colleen has supported us in taking this event to the next level, and I am forever grateful. Thank you, Colleen. Before we jump into our program, I'd like to share a bit about how we came to share this event with you in a virtual format. A few months ago, when we first started planning for this year's event, I had no idea that our world will be turned upside down and we'd be living through some of the most unprecedented times. Times that will force schools to close, businesses to close, times that will require 7 to 14-day quarantine, stay-at-home orders, and times that will reveal major inequities in our communities. When we closed our doors at Chi-Tech on March 16th, we also stopped planning for this event. And honestly, my plan was to cancel it. While the rest of the world was adjusting to work from home schedules and homeschooling, all of us at Chi-Tech were preparing for remote learning for students who had little to no access to technology and other basic essential needs. They were ripped from their schools in less than a 24-hour notice and were forced to transition to remote learning. I initially thought that my time would be much better spent providing resources to my students and families than planning an event. Then the world kept happening. We were coming face to face with the inequities that we read about but rarely talk about. We knew way before today and way before COVID-19 that there was major work to be done as it relates to which people had access to technology. Those that survived without food that schools provided, and we also knew about the home lives of our students that negatively impacted their ability to quickly transition to remote learning. There are so many things that we knew, but actively chose to ignore because we didn't have the time. There was no pandemic that forced us to address it. And in many cases, this thing felt like it was too big for us to take down. So when I thought about canceling the event, I eventually had to check myself. I had to reimagine what this event could be and reestablish its purpose in our community. While I am usually really excited to wear my little black dress and network with friends and supporters, today I'm excited to have the conversations about diversity, equity, and inclusion that we must continue to have to change our world, to change the lives of students at Chicago Tech Academy, and to radically reimagine the spaces that we live and work in to ensure that resources are shared equitably and opportunity exists for all. So despite not being together in person, I am honored to host this event with all of you. I am honored to have an outpour of support from the tech community in Chicago, and I am honored to be able to continue to serve my students and staff. On behalf of our sponsors, the Chi-Tech Board of Directors, and everyone at Chi-Tech, I want to thank you for being here with us today. For those of you that don't know, Chicago Tech Academy is a 4-year contract high school that was founded in 2009 to empower, educate, and connect a diverse next generation of entrepreneurial thinkers to discover their passions, succeed in college, and thrive in a digital world. Chi-Tech has built its program on 4 main components: project-based learning, STEM education, real-world experiences, and entrepreneurial thinking. Programs at Chi-Tech, such as real-world learning, allow students to gain experience at some of the city's greatest companies like Active Campaign, DDB, G2, Hierology, and SAP. Interning at companies like these provides students with life-changing experiences. These type of real-world experiences make a major impact on students and their post-secondary success. Events like this one, tied to diversity and talent, let our young women know that there are alternative pathways to careers. Providing opportunities for students to make meaningful contact with future employees, customers, clients, and colleagues helps to build their social capital, which is something most do not have access to prior to Chicago Tech. This evening's program is about connecting our students to the vast number of leaders here in our city and signed in with us tonight. Tonight, you'll hear from an amazing group of women who are turning the tech industry on its heels, challenging the status quo, and inspiring young women like those at Chi-Tech to dream big, stand up for what they believe in, and give back to their community. And for the first time ever, you'll also hear from our male supporters in this work. We have an amazing lineup of speakers tonight, women who are trailblazers in the industry and who are an inspiration to us all. Thank you for being here with us tonight. And now I'd like to share a short video created by our students.
And welcome to Little Black Dress Night. This year, Chicago Tech Academy celebrates its 10th anniversary. That's 10 years of educating, empowering, and connecting the next generation of entrepreneurial thinkers. And we couldn't have done it without you. I believe in the power of yes. I believe in endless possibilities, and so do all of our incredible students. So thank you for being on this wonderful, incredible, and powerful journey with us.
I knew I wanted to be an electrical engineer at the age of 12, even though I had no role models. My counselors, teachers, and parents supported me since I was great in math and science. I actually did not see an electrical engineering project, idea, curriculum until I went to college. This is why Chi-Tech is important. They offer students project-based learning, where the students work with corporations on real-life problems. Chi-Tech sets students up for success.
A woman with a voice is, by definition, a strong woman. Melinda Gates.
We may encounter many defeats, but we must not be defeated. Maya Angelou.
There is no limit to what we as women can accomplish.
A girl should be two things, who and what she wants. Coco Chanel.
Feminism isn't about making women stronger. Women are already strong. It's about changing the way the world perceives that strength.
When there's no ceiling, the sky's the limit. So let's keep going. Let's keep going until every one of the 161 million women and girls in America have the opportunity they deserve to have.
We need women at all levels, including the top, to change the dynamic, to reshape the conversation, to make sure all women's voices are heard and heeded, not overlooked, like Shirley Sandberg.
Dreams do come true, but not without the help of others. A good education, a strong work ethic, and the courage to lean in. Ursula Burns.
Good evening. My name is Kishana Brandenburg, and I am a graduating senior here at Chicago Tech Academy High School. And I would like to welcome everyone to our 6th annual virtual Little Black Dress Night. I hope you enjoyed that short video that shed a little bit of light into our lives as Chi Tech students, our values, and why this event means so much to all of us. We have an amazing evening planned for you, and I am honored to be one of the first people that you hear speak tonight, and would like to share a bit about my experience as a Chi Tech student and a member of the Young Women's Leadership Society. The Young Women's Leadership Society is a support group that provides young women like myself professional advancement as leaders in the tech industry and as entrepreneurs. Young Women's Leadership hosts workshops, sponsors events, plans college visits, and facilitates discussions. Our events, speaker series, and workshops create opportunities for our members to have important face-to-face encounters with seasoned and emerging professionals in tech, business, and startups alike, from companies like Active Campaign, G2, Hierology, DDB, and In Context Solutions. Thanks to companies like these and a significant investment from our partner, Motorola Solution Foundation, students like me and 300 others have access to life-changing real-world learning experiences. When I heard about Young Women's Leadership Society from Ms. Wheatley, I kept coming up with excuses as to why I couldn't join, but I was just afraid to try something new. To this day, I'm glad I stopped making excuses and joined this wonderful program. Being a member of Young Women's Leadership Society helped me develop into the woman I am today. It pushed me to get out of my comfort zone, made me feel like I belonged to something bigger than myself, and created an everlasting sisterhood. Each year, we host this event to recognize and applaud women in tech. Women in tech like Brenda Wilkerson, Andrea Zopp, Amanda Lannert, and Leslie Mckinney. But more than anything, this event is a way to empower other young women to join the next generation of tech and entrepreneurship leaders. As a result of COVID-19, I've had a lot of time to reflect on my next phase of my life. And in particular, the next step I need to take to be a part of the next generation of change leaders. And I've been able to reflect on my high school experience, an experience that was just cut short a few months before I was set to graduate. I remember my first day of high school. I remember being afraid of the new environment and having to meet new people because this is not a strong suit of mine at the time. After the first day, I went home and cried. I told my mom and dad I wanted to go to a different school. I remember being drawn to Chi Tech because of the tech course options. And I remember learning so much of what I liked and also a lot about what I didn't like about Chi Tech at the time. More than anything, I learned about service and helping others, especially through my experience as a member of the Young Women's Leadership Society. Today, However, I am glad that my parents didn't give in and let the scared freshman get her way, because I have gained so much from my experience as a Chi-Tech student. The experiences and opportunities that I gained at Chi-Tech has allowed me to feel empowered and prepared for my future. Experiences like a month-long paid internship at Roosevelt University my junior year, participating in power lunches with several people in attendance tonight, and visiting a variety of colleges and universities. One thing that inspired me and gave me the confidence were the words of affirmation I received from my coworkers at Roosevelt University. To this day, I still have my mentor and support system within Katrina Coakley, my supervisor at my internship. Chi-Tech has given me the tools to be the first one in my family to be able to attend college. And today I am proud to announce that in the fall of 2020, I will be attending Southern Illinois University in Carbondale and begin my studies to prepare for a career in dentistry. Once I graduate, I hope to come back to Chicago to open up my own dental office and give back to the community that I grew up in. Although Little Black Dress Night looks different this year, Ms. Wheatley and other members on the committee have done a great job putting together an awesome virtual event. And I promise you that tonight will leave you feeling inspired. Thank you all for coming and supporting a night dedicated to women in tech. I now would like to introduce you to our keynote speaker, Brenda Darden Wilkerson. Brenda Darden Wilkerson is an advocate for access, opportunity, and social justice for underrepresented communities in technology. She currently serves as the president and CEO of AnitaB.org, an organization working to shape public opinion about issues critically important to women technologists in education, industry, and government. She founded the original Computer Science for All program. This program built computer sciences into the curriculum for every student in Chicago public schools and served as the inspiration for the Obama administration's national CS for All program. Ms. Wilkerson is the inspiration to all young women at Chi-Tech and across the world, and I'm excited to hear her speak tonight. Please join me in welcoming Brenda Darden Wilkerson.
Thank you so much, Kishana, for that intro. I'm very humbled by it. I want to say congratulations to you and all the other graduates, and just say that my heart is full to be here and be part of this very important event. So let me start out by telling you a story. When I was an undergraduate at Northwestern University, taking a computer science course, after class one day, I went to my professor to ask a question. He instead asked me, "Why are you here?" Now, I think if I were to put a positive spin on it, the translation would be, "Why do you think you should be a technologist?" Now, make no mistake, this wasn't a question about my aspirations or my professional trajectory. It was a question about my identity and the seemingly doubtful path, to him anyway, that had brought me to his classroom. As a Black female student with serious interest in tech, it was clear that my goals and my identity put together were considered an anomaly. And while this was several years ago, I can say without question that this attitude remains a strong part of experiences many non-majority folks face today. I often say that I am accidentally in tech. One reason is because since childhood and during the beginning of my college career, I wanted to be a doctor. Only because I majored in pre-med biomedical engineering and was required did I take 2 programming classes. These marked my exposure to programming and computer science and laid the foundation for what would become my new passion and my entire career. Another reason why I refer to my career in tech as accidental is because I was considered an exception to what people expect to see and know about technologists, most commonly typified as a white male. Unsurprisingly, there are many ways in which my story is not unique to me and resembles stories that many people of color and many women in general have when it comes to being the only one in the room. Now, the idea that anyone of any background or identity or gender can become anyone they want is a standard that is still in the process of being realized across many industries in our world. And this is especially true in tech and STEM fields at large. It is also the reason why I do what I do, why I have found my passion in advocating for a diverse workforce inclusive of everyone, all women, everyone who wants to be in tech. And this starts with education. So simply put, we can't be what we can't see. I'd also put it another way. It's also hard for others to imagine you being what they don't see. This is the foundation of many barriers. But schools like ChITech are changing that. Normally, if I were with you today in person, I would say something like, look around you. Look at everyone in the room. But I'm thankful that because of technology, we're still able to have this great experience today. Because ChITech is a place where students of all backgrounds and experiences are encouraged to foster their own educational and personal growth through project-based entrepreneurial and technological learning, this is an important night and important things are happening in all of our lives. Young Women's Leadership Society is a model incubator of tomorrow's leaders. And I believe that one day, ladies, you will look back and recognize it as an important part of the foundation on which you will build your passion and career. And you are going to change things and the experiences that many of us had. I grew up in a family of educators. Both of my parents were teachers. And as an educator myself, I can tell you from personal experience that building that strong foundation that you are getting at ChITech at the very beginning of a student's educational career is the thing that empowers him or her with choices. This not only means having options to choose from, but also the opportunity to see life and personal impact differently. And to see life differently is truly to increase your freedom of choice. For me, the definition of freedom is choices. It's what I teach my kids. The man or woman who has many choices has multiplied freedom. The man or woman who does not have choices or doesn't know their choices has limited freedom. Few academic institutions understand the necessity of integrating a thorough study of 21st century technology into the curriculum like ChITech does. But such learning is so critical, not only because technology is an inevitable part of our everyday reality, but also and especially because understanding tech fosters different and needed ways of thinking from a range of thinkers that resemble the people for whom they create the tech. The founders and leaders at ChITech were way ahead of the game, realizing that in a world where billions of people rely on using a screen and keyboard every day, especially now, to communicate with others and to receive and share new information that drives our everyday actions, a technology education should hold as much importance in the curriculum as math, language arts, science, and history. So you're getting a jump on what it takes to innovate, and innovation is life. And because you are ChITech students, you have been prepped to become the next most representative generation of anything you want to be, whether that's a scientist, artist, government official, journalist, doctor, designer, you name it. So now is perhaps the easiest time to really see the evidence that as we face the coronavirus pandemic and turn to leaders, many of whom are scientists and engineers, and we're turning to them for answers, the world needs a responsible citizenry who can recognize and solve problems and create intelligent, integrated solutions that serve our entire population. We turn to medical professionals and biomedical engineers for equipment and public health officials for preventative guidance and government officials for public safety. One great example of what's happening right now is in Germany, which is considered to have had a very successful national battle against COVID-19. Is it any coincidence that the Chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel, has a doctorate in quantum chemistry and worked as a research scientist prior to her political career? See, you can be a scientist and a politician. An article in The Atlantic put it best. She is likely to be remembered as being the scientist in chief because she used and personified evidence-based thinking when it mattered most. That's what you know. That's what you've learned in your Chi-Tech education. It has been designed to elevate the difference in thinking and representation the world so desperately needs. Instead of asking, now what, when we have the next crisis, you're going to be prepared to say, I have an idea what should come next. When I was pre-med, my goal was to help and serve others, to decrease suffering, and to increase the impact of other people. So when I thought I was failing myself by giving up that dream in the hope of realizing another, I had yet to realize the intention of my next step. Keep that in mind when things change. My choice to become a computer scientist ended up impacting not only my life's work, but also my life's passion. These hopes I had are ones I still have today. And every day I have the opportunity to help others recognize their own paths and to advocate for a much more diverse world at large. Now, unsurprisingly, this mindset did not come without struggle or adversity, most of which I had internalized from what we like to call the 1,000 paper cut experiences. You may have heard that. So I'm going to warn you in advance that some of those experiences may impact your ability to step up to opportunities that will inevitably come your way. They are coming. So let me tell you another story that I hope will help you navigate around the inevitable pressures that you will experience in your careers. The opportunity to interview for my current role as CEO and president at AnitaB.org came to me while I was waiting at a gate in Washington, D.C. after a meeting with a group of leaders working on CS for All at the White House. In my inbox, there was an email from a recruiter who told me that Megan Smith, who was President Barack Obama's CTO, had entered my name for consideration. Now, I was just coming from the White House. I should have felt like I had an achievement. And whereas most people would have hurried to reply to that email, I chose not to reply for almost 2 months. And when I did, I argued all the reasons why I would not be good at this role. So once the recruiter finally requested my resume, I submitted it to him, convinced that that would be the end of the story. I said, now they'll know that I was not right all along. For those of you who know this feeling, it has a name, Impostor Syndrome. It's a phenomenon where you doubt yourself, your capabilities, your accomplishments. Unsurprisingly, research has proven that people of color, and especially women of color, via their experiences, feel its effects stronger than anyone else. Through my self-doubt, I wanted to understand why they thought I would be a good fit. Through my research, though, about Anita Borg, our founder, I came across this video of her speaking about the lack of gender parity in computer science. I had experienced that. And when I saw her fire and her vision as one that she was one of those people who could see what other people couldn't see, I recognized that that was my superpower too. I have the ability to believe and fight for things for other people, even when other people can't see it. So in that moment, I finally understood that I too could be crazy enough to believe what others could do. I realized if the research committee was looking for crazy, they had found it. If they were looking for someone who believes in the impossible mission to reach gender parity in a male-dominated field, then yes, I was right for the job. And I saw myself, and this is what's important, as a product of my choices. Even when I thought they had been wrong in the past, they really inevitably led me to do what I was supposed to do. So as an educator, an activist, a technologist, as a woman, I can confidently say that Chi-Tech would have been my dream school. And the Young Women's Leadership Society would have put me so far ahead in my own expectations. My later-ish career discovery, it changed my life. It gave me more choices. But I often wonder what would have happened if I had computing a little bit earlier, if my professors had looked like me, if the images of who can be a computer scientist or technologist or CEO had looked like me. I wonder too what the shape of my own doubts even now would be, or when I was waiting on that plane in DC, or standing in front of my professor getting asked that dumb question. Today, I am proudly part of an organization that explicitly works to change the image of the stereotypic technologist. And I'm so excited to see strong technologists being built at ShyTech. And I'm so grateful for the leaders and the teachers who are making it happen. To all you brilliant young women, I can say without question that you are prepared to push your way into that room. Claim your presence as a gift and a given to that room, and take a seat at the table that is sorely missing you. We need your brilliance to ensure that no one's needs are forgotten in tomorrow's solutions, and I know you won't forget. From my own experience, I know firsthand how important it is for young people of all backgrounds to get exposed to well-rounded education that includes tech early so that they can make discoveries that lead them to careers where they can excel, so that they can have more choices, so that they can live and produce more freedom for themselves and others. I hope my story of accident to great choices and intentional impact will help you recognize the freedom you already possess because the choices you have ahead of you. I expect to see. I expect to see you helping others see in you what they can be. And I can't wait to see and experience the greatness of your impact. I'm going to be cheering for you. Godspeed. Thank you.
Brenda, you are an inspiration to all of us. I remember being very early in my career and heading down to the CPS office to hear your plans for computer science for all and the amazing work that you have done for our city and now across the world is commendable. So thank you so much. What stuck out most to me, what you said was intentional impact. I think that that is something that we all need to carry with us and be very intentional about our actions, specifically in how we lead our youth. So thank you so much. I could imagine that if we were in person, we would be giving you a standing ovation right now. And the other thing that stuck out to me was what you said about being crazy enough to believe in yourself. We hear a lot about the imposter syndrome. And I think that that is something that we want to make sure the young girls at Chicago Tech understand that they can do anything that they put their minds to. And that's why we do events like this, to make sure that they know what they can achieve, to put women in front of them who look like them, who have similar backgrounds to them, who have similar experiences as them, and who have had successful careers in technology. So thank you so much. Before we move on to our next segment, I would love to see who we have in the room tonight and how many folks are attending Little Black Dress Night for the first time, or how many folks have been to an event before. So fill out our poll right now and I will report the number back out to everyone. I'm seeing a lot of responses come in. It looks like a lot of first-time attendees. So thank you all for joining us. We also have a number of folks that have been here for 4 or 5 years as well. So thank you for being a returning supporter. I'm also seeing a number of folks that have been to every Little Black Dress Night event. If that's you, just send us a message in the chat box so we can recognize you. If you are one of those people that have been to every Little Black Dress Night, would love to see you. Just give us a shout out in the chat box. I think there's about 10 to 15 folks there. And a number of people that joined us last year at Active Campaign as well. But it looks like the largest number of folks are attending this event for the first time, and we hope that you are enjoying your experience so far. The next part of our segment is our panel discussion. This is the most talked about part of our event. You heard me share a little bit earlier about Colleen Egan. Colleen has been a major supporter of ShyTech. If you attended the event last year, you know that she was on the panel last year and is a proud Chicago Tech Academy board member now and is a co-sponsor of Little Black Dress Night. So Colleen, welcome.
Hey.
Hey, I'm gonna turn it over to you now. This is your segment and I'm looking forward to hearing what you have planned.
Thank you. And thank you, Brenda. That speech was amazing. I'm so inspired and I hope everyone out there is inspired. Last year was my first Little Black Dress Night. I was on the panel and it changed my life. I became a board member and it's still changing my life every day. And actually tonight I teared up a little bit already. So I hope it's, inspiring all of you of the impactful work we're doing here. And I thank you again. We couldn't have done this without you. I'd love to welcome our esteemed panel to the screen for today's discussion. I'm so honored to be moderating because I know these people and I know the work they've done, and I feel like I'm just being surrounded by friends tonight having a great conversation. As I introduce each one of you, please give a wave or do a dance or whatever you'd like. Tonight we're just celebrating. Amanda Lannert. She's the CEO of Jellyvision, and not only has she been instrumental in Jellyvision's success, but throughout her career, she's been a driving force for diversity, equity, and inclusion, women in technology, and women's representation on corporate boards. And she serves on many herself. She has won countless awards, and in 2018, she was the Illinois Technology Association's CEO of the Year, the first woman to win. Thank you for being here, Amanda. World Business Chicago's mission is inclusive economic growth, supporting businesses, and promoting Chicago as a leading global city. And no one has been more impactful in the city's growth than its CEO, Andrea Zopp. Hi, Andrea. As the former president and CEO of the Chicago Urban League, and with countless appointments and awards, her career has a long history of helping youth and young adults achieve academic and career success and advocating for social justice. And I'm so glad she's here. Our next panelist is a leading technologist, entrepreneur, investor, and mentor. And in my 20 years of working in tech, I've never met a CTO who's a bigger ally for diversity and women in tech as John Higginson. Hey, John. His support stretches across numerous organizations, including the Illinois Technology Association, IC Stars, and ARA. He's been a supporter of Little Black Dress Night since the beginning, and he's also our first male panelist. Yay! And last but not least, Leslie Mckinney is the director of the Chicago chapter of Black Women in Science and Engineering, also known as BWISE. It's an organization supporting Black women in STEM via networking, mentoring, and career development. Currently, 1 out of 20 employed scientists and engineers are women of color. And when it comes to women with doctorate degrees, 86% are white or Asian, fewer than 4% are Latina, and less than 3% are Black. BWISE and all of the panelists here are working diligently to change that, and I welcome all of them. And I'm so honored to be here with all of you guys. These are extraordinary times. As you know, we had planned this big, celebration at Chicago Cultural Center this year. We were doubling our capacity. We were doubling our fundraising efforts. And then the world happened to all of us. This event that has made us all step back. But we, took a deep breath. We pivoted, and here we are. And I'm so glad that you stood out with us. During this time, we've all had to lead, and all of you have led with such thoughtfulness and grace. I've watched all of you through this time on social media. But what has surprised you most about yourself or what have you discovered about yourself during this time? And I'd like to open with Andrea.
I'd say for me, I think a couple things. I am, and I think this is true not just for me, but I think for a lot of people. I'm impressed by how quickly we pivoted. I mean, literally, we went from okay, the world was okay. In the first week of March, we took Mayor Lightfoot to Toronto for her first international trip. She gave a speech. 2 weeks later, 2.5 weeks later, we were closed. So that's how quickly that happened. And we've adjusted, my team's adjusted, and I've adjusted. There are things that you miss, but there are so many other benefits. So I think it's just I talk a lot about resilience when I talk about strengths and qualities. And I think really what you're seeing is people's resilience, really their ability to say, okay, there are a lot of things about this that I really, really don't like, but we're going to pick up and keep going. So I'd say that's for me personally, the first thing that I thought, that we pivoted to a completely different world amazingly quickly.
Yeah, I think all of us have seen so much quick adaptation and quick resiliency. And I think we'll come out of this because of that as well. Amanda, what has surprised you about yourself during this time?
I tend to be someone who likes to lead by walking around the office. I get lunch with people. When there's a problem, I get on a plane or I want people in a room. It's sort of like kinesthetic leadership where I think being in faces is really important. And I'm surprised at how the stories I've been telling myself for 25 years aren't true, that you can in fact build relationships, you can deeply listen, you can care, you can solve problems, you can get work done with everyone sitting in their basements or wherever they may be. And the second thing, to be totally candid, that surprised me is how amazing sweatpants are. I haven't put on pants with a zipper in 10 weeks, and I don't think I'm ever going back. So that was surprising in a delightful way, I have to share.
No, that's great. I put socks and shoes on tonight, so I'm feeling really good.
I didn't. I admit it.
And the good thing tonight is too, I had a suit all ready to go for tonight at our big event. And I just think I love these conversations where we're just so much more relaxed. I'm wearing my little black dress, night t-shirt, and I think we can just share in a more open and honest way. And so, yeah, I appreciate that honesty. Leslie, what's surprised you about yourself?
I think the biggest thing that surprised me is that I can self-isolate for 8 weeks. That was actually shocking. I'm used to working remotely and reaching out and making connections with a lot of people. So that wasn't new for me. But I actually decided to be more creative with cooking. I actually started to create more content. So there were things that I have pushed myself to do that have actually been fun that normally would not be fun for me. So those things have been very surprising. And I did put on heels tonight because normally I'm not doing anything. So I thought I'd dress up just a little bit with my t-shirt on.
I think that's great. I agree with you. I'm an extrovert. I love people. I love being at events. And what surprised me is that I've done really well at home. I've kept really busy. My wife's friends are checking in to see how this extrovert is doing in isolation, but I'm doing okay. John, what has surprised you about yourself during this time?
About me, it was how quickly I could revert to my college state of living. I haven't worn anything but shorts in 2 months. I made a pact with myself that I would not put on pants until we go back to the office. So I've held true to that. Amazon's been my friend with that. My hair is getting longer. Soon it will get to the late 80s glory that it once was. And I'm finding a way to sleep as late as I possibly can. So I thought I would hate being at home all the time, but I've actually reverted to a previous state that I knew. The other thing that I found is actually more of a kind of a preconceived bias about things. So when we at Groupon sent everyone home, we have offices in 14 countries, and I made an assumption that as long as we gave them equipment, everyone had access to connect to the office. And what we found is in some of our offices or some of our employees who are in Eastern Europe or in India, many of them didn't have home internet access. So I made a very flawed assumption about the pervasiveness of technology and ability to connect. And I think that's as we talk about kind of institutional biases and institutional problems that prevent people from learning and growing and succeeding. I think that was a real smack upside the head for me about don't make assumptions about what people have access to.
That actually is a great segue into me asking our next question, which we try to keep our questions, relevant to the times. And, our city, along with many across America, have had a history of inequality in healthcare and education, which has been really exacerbated with COVID-19. And as we move to virtual learning, the digital divide has become especially undeniable. So what are your thoughts on maybe some viable solutions, John? And then I'll open this up to everyone.
I think that we have to start thinking of internet access as a public utility. I think we have to think about, in the same way that we thought about electricity and water in maybe previous generations, I think we have to think about internet access as just something that everyone needs, and that we have to have, whether it's public or private institutions that provide that, I think we need that. I think to be a student in this era without high-speed internet access is to be profoundly disadvantaged. And I think we have to work together, companies and governments, to make that happen.
Anyone else have thoughts on that?
I totally agree. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, it's a big question. And the CIO of the state of Illinois will be on later, but we had a discussion a couple of weeks ago that they were creating hotspots on buses downstate. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's even when we closed at Chicago Tech Academy, 80% of our students' families are low income, 20% identify as, home insecure or homeless. And so, yeah, having a computer at home or having internet is just such a luxury that I think all of us take for granted that, is not possible for a lot of families, not even only in rural, urban communities, but in rural communities. Andrea?
What I would add to that is it is of course important, and we've seen it, the real challenge we have with going to digital learning, but it's a real challenge for the business community. So if your business, your retail or front store has been shut down, but you have no internet, you don't have a strong digital presence, or you don't have, because you didn't have the access to get digital presence, you really have no other options. And so I think John's absolutely right. Is in this current world, it has to be, we have to treat it as a right, like water, like air, because if you don't have it, you are profoundly disadvantaged.
Yep. Thank you, everyone. Leslie, I'd like to direct this question to you. What was the biggest success or the biggest learning opportunity professionally or personally that led you to where you are today?
With live events, there are always, so Leslie is trying to reconnect right now. So if you want to direct that to someone else, Colleen, just wanted to let you know.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like live television here. Amanda.
Yeah, so we'll take something kind of recent because I think it's germane to some of the stories we've already heard tonight. In 2016, I was told by my board of directors that I needed to go raise $20 million of secondary capital. And not many women in Chicago have ever done that. I think 2 had done it at that point, and not many men in Chicago had done that either. And I sat down, and it wasn't even just raising money, but it was secondary capital. And I had no idea what to do. And so after the meeting, I sat down, opened up the Google and Googled how to raise secondary capital and started reading about it. And I think it's like sort of a formative lesson where if I'm really honest about my life, about 85% of the time I'm fundamentally over my skis, not knowing the playbook, not knowing what to do. And I have gotten over my fear of not knowing what to do because I've learned that I can figure some things out. So being a figure it outer or just a learner is more important than actually knowing anything, because the fact is life is changing, technology is changing, culture is changing, community is changing. And so all norms are kind of being disrupted all the time. So just sort of like a formative lesson or an opportunity was, it's not what you know, it's what you can figure out. It's what you can go learn.
Yep.
And that makes you belong in any room.
I'm a big believer in the power of yes, and just saying yes to those opportunities. And, Brenda talked about imposter syndrome, and a lot of young women who are out there tonight, a lot of times when I get people who, interview with me, they might feel like they only meet 5 or 6 out of the 10 requirements for a position. And, most of the guys I get, they might have 2, but they're so qualified for the job. And so it really is believing in yourself and, and asking, why not me? And because you've got the power to do it.
I don't know if it's like I'm cool enough to be like, yeah, I totally believe in myself, or it's that I've failed so often and haven't died yet that you just keep on going. I mean, there's like something to be said for just like grit of not dead yet, still in the game.
And it's a good point too. It's like, failure is great to everyone out there, it's like, that's how you learn. So, don't think of that as, something that's going to hold you back. I just find failure is another way to succeed. And John, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, I think it's similar. I've been in many situations where I was not ready. The first time I was ever a CTO, I was woefully underprepared to do that job. And I think being willing to take chances and being willing to just pick myself up and say, okay, and I screwed that up, but I'm going to learn from that and I'm going to move on. I think a lot of people, and I was definitely this way when I was younger, assume that you have to go into a situation with having all the answers or being fully prepared. And what I found for sure in my professional career is very few of them I was actually prepared for. Life comes at you really fast and you have to be willing to react to it.
Yep. Leslie, you missed the question, but I was asking, what's the biggest success or biggest learning opportunity that you've had personally or professionally?
So I apologize. For some reason, my connectivity decides not to work. Speaking of technology, right? So when I'm checking my phones, because I'm using it as my mobile hotspot right now, so that I can talk to you.
We're all adaptable.
Yes. All adaptable. And you asked the question one more time?
Yeah, what's been your biggest success or biggest learning opportunity that's led you to where you are today?
I would say that the last role that I had at the corporation I worked for gave me an opportunity to work more with customers. Most of the time I worked internally, and sometimes our conversations internally weren't always as what was needed when you talk to a customer. We're not as polite. We're not as accommodating. And in that last role, it taught me a lot in terms of collaboration, making connections. When you're dealing with a client and you don't want them to cancel a contract, you learn that pretty quickly. And that helped me in terms of the role that I do now with Black women in science and engineering, because a lot of what we do in terms of programming has a lot to do with collaborations and connections and figuring out how we can help each other. So I would say since I left that one corporation and started into this role has been a lot of growth for me.
Yeah, and Be Wise is just helping so many people. Andrea, you've had a really varied career too. What's one of those experiences has made you what you are today?
I think, similar to Amanda, I think it's not just one. I've done a whole host of different things. Literally everything from, I've been a prosecutor, or I've worked in a firm, I ran for office. So I think it's about being willing to take the risks and to push yourself and accept that, as Amanda said, when you fall down or your plane crashes, you won't die. We get back up. We fall down, but we get back up. And so I think that's really the most important thing, is really, because if you don't take a risk, you're not pushing yourself. And if you're not pushing yourself, you're not really growing. And there are times in your life where it's good to be comfortable, but if you're really trying to move forward, and I think particularly for women and particularly for women of color, if you're really going to move, you're going to have to be pushing yourself, because we're still, as we've talked about, so underrepresented in tech and in the fields as engineers and in science and in tech. And so you're going to have to push yourself if you want to move forward, because you're going to be, the role models you're looking for aren't there yet. You're going to be the role models for others.
And I like that you said, I'm the same. I think all of us here have had these really varied experiences in our life, and we are just, the product of all of that. Every experience you have makes you who you are today, for good or bad. So thank you for bringing that up. I had a question that I was going to start with John, because he's such a gender ally, an ally for women, but I'm going to open this up to everyone. What has really motivated you to become involved? John, on your side, to help women in tech, but for the rest of us, for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and anyone can start.
Yeah, I can start. I mean, for me, I have the gift of having grown up under very different circumstances than almost everyone in my circle. So I grew up here in the Chicago area. I grew up in the south suburbs in South Holland. Thunderbirds, anyone went there. But I grew up in the 70s and 80s. And in the era when I grew up, everyone had a mother and father at home. And every father went to work every day. And every mother stayed home and took care of the kids in the house. My parents got divorced when I was 4. I was an only child. My mom went to work every day, and my mom went to work in a restaurant, which is an important part of the story. So I grew up with my mom, a woman, being the breadwinner. And then my mom over time managed that restaurant. And I grew up with my mom as a leader. I also worked for my mom for 5 years, which was both perhaps the most formative leadership experience in my life and the most miserable job I've ever had. Because for 5 years, she rode me, incredibly hard, because she was not going to let anyone think that I got away with anything. And so not only did I not get away with anything, I got zero benefit at all. In fact, the last day I worked for her was New Year's Eve, where I'm like, I can't do it anymore. I'm out. After the night was over, I was done. But working with her for 5 years, I got to see what it was like to be the only woman in leadership in an industry that was totally dominated by white males. And to the point where like customers would come up to her and say, have a complaint, and look her dead in the eye and say, can I talk to your manager? Because she couldn't possibly be in charge, right? To say, let me explain it to you, because you may not understand how this works. Like things like that. I just saw all the stuff that she went through. And, when I got through college and I got into the workforce in tech, and, first of all, I'm like it was, I'm like, where are all the women leaders? But where are all the women, period? Like, where do they all go? Like, look, my valedictorian in high school was not me. It was Cheryl, who, was a friend of mine. The smartest people I knew were all women, and they weren't in tech. And so, first of all, I came into this industry without some of the innate, built-in biases of the youth that maybe other people had. But I also came into it with a mission to say, this isn't right. And when I got power, which I have the power to influence things, I was going to use that power to right that imbalance.
Thank you, John. I love your story. I've read your story many times about your mom, and I really appreciate it. I had both parents, but my dad was a huge gender equity, guy. He would introduce me when I was younger as his kid or his child. And I was like, Dad, why don't you ever call me your daughter? And he's like, I don't want the world to think you're sweet and kind and nice immediately. I want them to see you for the person you are, and you don't even know who you are and what you're going to become. I want you to learn that on your own and to find that, and not to have people judge you and, make you something that you're not from an early age. Amanda, I mean, you have a large workforce, and I really love that when I walk into your office, I can pick up a pronoun button, you know, and wear it and to make everybody comfortable. But, you know, what's that one experience that led you to be, of course, the gender side, that's a given, but for everything else?
Yeah, so I'll kind of lay the some data on the table. Jellyvision isn't just 50% female; it's 60% plus female in the C-suite, which doesn't happen in a lot of tech companies. And I didn't realize that until we were submitting ourselves for like Crane's Best Places to Work. And it's the first time I actually looked at the data and realized we had such a female skew. But in looking at that data, I realized we did not have a population that was representative of the city in which we build, meaning Chicago, in terms of racial diversity. And we began a number of initiatives to change the racial diversity of Jellyvision, which was frankly too white, still is too white to be a city that really does all of its business in Chicago. And so we did a number of tactics, from changing how we recruit, identity redacted, unconscious bias training, interest groups, all kinds of things to really try to build up a greater diversity in our population, not just from a gender perspective. And it's not really working. And what I realized is, to say that it's a pipeline problem is kicking the can about 10 years down the road. Diversity is not a pipeline problem, it's a promotion problem. And the fact is, Jellyvision has a 50% female population and a 60% female C-suite because I was the CEO. And simply by being female in the C-suite, people said, I see myself growing there. I see myself in that room. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna take risks and run hard. And people of color don't see that at Jellyvision. And so a huge part of trying to say it's like you want to create change, start at the top, not the bottom. It's uncomfortable, but that's sort of like what I've seen based on data and a lot of best practices yielding no fruit. And that's why I take a lot of board seats. That's why I keep showing up. It's like, I always call it ladying up the room. You need to see diversity in these rooms for young people to believe I own a seat there too. That's just sort of like our experience. It is you start at the top and you change who's at the top, and you will then change who is brave and feels motivated and inspired to lean in and gun.
I agree. We all know, the number of women on board seats is low. The number of women of color on board seats is almost non-existent. But thank you for everything you're doing. Andrea, your job as kind of a leader of business in Chicago, diversity is just a part of that. But what really drives you?
I mean, what drives me is, and I think, John's point is, we are, where we came from. In part, I was really blessed to have access to economic opportunity. My parents fought hard for me to get access to a quality education. I got a quality education and was able to use that. And so, but I see all the time the barriers that are put in front of people who are trying simply just to move forward. And I really want to highlight, something that Amanda said. She said they haven't had the success she wants to have, but what she talked about was very intentional action. And I think too much we say all the right words. We're like, oh, I'm for inclusion and I push diversity. I mean, for years I spent a lot of time in corporate America. I spent a lot of time in places where we talk about diversity, we talk about inclusion, and that's great. And I think people mean it, but the truth is it's hard. It's hard because we live in a racialized country where, in fact, my daughter just pointed out to me yesterday, she was like, Mom, that wasn't that long ago, slavery wasn't that long ago. Civil rights movement wasn't that long ago. I'm like, right, that is correct. That is very correct. So we can't walk away from that. And there's barriers and there's policies and there's unintentional bias that impact people's access to opportunity. And if you don't make intentional things happen to overcome that, we won't. We'll just continue to talk nice things about it. And, whether it is the biases that come, from when you don't clean it, when you have resumes that aren't gender cleaned up, but it happens. And so I think for me, I'm passionate about it because I know how important educational opportunity, economic opportunity, and I've seen people work so incredibly hard. I mean, overcome amazing barriers. And I think now when I talk to young people, you think so many people now, you just apply for jobs online. Well, those algorithms and things really skew against people of color because they don't have internships on their resume. They don't have access to those opportunities because when they come home from school, they have to work so they can go back to school. I mean, it's the little things like that that you see all the time that we've got to overcome. We've got to fight to overcome because when in diverse rooms, they're better. We make better. We have better outcomes. We have better results. Our city will be better when we remove the inequities between neighborhoods and people feel like everyone has a chance here. We will live up to the potential that we have. And so it matters, and we have to fight for it because we will all be better for it.
That's why I'm involved with, Chicago Tech Academy and why it moves me so much, because I know working with Chicago youth for the last, 15, 20 years, equity in education, equity and access to networks that we just take for granted is so important. My father was an immigrant. He didn't know how to connect me with those people to help me, but he found out who, and introduced me to those organizations to help me, which is the only reason I'm where I'm at today, which is what we're all doing. I've been pinged that we only have a few minutes and I've got so many more questions and I'm having such a wonderful time with all of you, but I'm going to move away from that and go to, since, our girls are graduating, our students are graduating, and I'd love to leave them with a little advice. So what 3 skills do today's female graduates need to pack in their backpacks and carry with them for the next 4 years of college? And I'll start with Leslie.
3 skills. I would say 1 is critical thinking. I worked with a group of students, and I realize now that a lot of students can't have Google at their access, which is wonderful, but Google doesn't answer everything. You have to understand the problem and then understand the root cause to be able to solve it. So definitely have critical thinking. 2 is adaptability, which I've been doing some of that tonight with my technology, but COVID has really brought to light that there are the inequities that we've been talking about, but also opportunity. People may have never thought about probably biomedical engineering or epidemiology. So there's just so many other fields that obviously this has brought up that it's an opportunity to say, well, maybe I'll go into a different direction based on the need. The third one would be to be a quick study. That's helpful in understanding any situation that you may walk into. It's helpful for networking. It's helpful for building collaborations with people, just so that, you can be cooperative and get accomplished so many different things. So I would say those are the 3 that I'm thinking of.
And those are great, Leslie. Thanks. John, your 3.
Yeah, so I would start with, it doesn't matter where you're going, to school, to work. First, be curious. Particularly in tech, it always changes. I always tell people the first 2 programming languages I learned, nobody knows anymore. So if I'd stuck on that, I'd be in real trouble. So be curious, be inquisitive, learn all that you can. I think the second is advocate for yourself. You will find allies, you'll find friends, you will find mentors, but the first mentor, the first advocate has to be you. You have to raise your hand, you have to ask for things, you have to stand up for yourself. And the third is recognize that it's a journey, that you may not get everything you want on the first day. You may get some things you want and may not be what you think they were or what you wanted. And that's okay. It's a long journey, and a lot of things are, there'll be lots of good things along the way, and just work hard and go after what you want.
Thanks, John. Amanda, what are your 3?
Well, just to kind of put it in context, when I started at Jellyvision, there were no smartphones, there was no social media, there wasn't even broadband internet. and the change is not going to slow down. So I really do sort of agree with everyone who's gone before me who talked more about soft skills. And I would say the soft skills I think are important are first being an adaptive self-learner, being a figure it outer. I would suggest taking classes that are totally alien to you and learning content that's unfamiliar and figuring out how to wrap your head around new stuff. The second thing is I think communication skills are going to be critical, both spoken and written. You need to convey your ideas, your thoughts, where you need help, all that kind of stuff in life. So being a great communicator is going to be key, and really honing craft there is important. And the third thing is relationship building. You need to know how to get people to trust you. You need to know how to persuade in almost any endeavor you take. So really building strong interpersonal skills will help. The machines are going to do more and more of the jobs that we used to do. But what machines will never do is innovate. And so if you can be a figure it outer and be a great communicator and be able to build relationships and get people to trust you and follow you, you'll be able to innovate your way out of anything.
I think that's great. And I'd like to add empathy to yours because, we do know that AI is, where we're going. It has been where we are and where we're going even more. But it won't have the empathy we have as a human being. So I invite everyone to work on your empathetic skills as well. And Andrea.
What they said, no, but just a couple ads. So I'd say perseverance. I think Leslie was a perfect example of perseverance today. She totally MacGyvered when her connectivity went out. So that was awesome. And that's what life's going to be like. Things are going to be thrown at you, and you can't be, you might get derailed for a short period of time, but you should persevere on the things that are important to you. I would also say compassion for yourself, compassion for the people around you, which really goes to that empathy, but recognizing that you're going to be in it together, and you have to support others, build that network, but also be caring both for yourself and for other people. And then I really just have to reiterate, both John and Amanda talked about it, is being inquisitive and a learner. The world's changing, and the people who are really successful are those who are always willing to learn, to check something else out, to figure something else out, but really push yourself to be interested in new things, because new things are coming.
Yep. This has been such a great discussion, and I could keep talking to all of you, but we have a few students I'd like to invite. The audience has been asking questions and they've been voted upon, and they're going to come on screen to ask those questions to close out the panel. So welcome, students. Hi, Kashana.
Hey, so my question is, as a woman working in tech, I've at times experienced some unwanted pressure to be one of the guys in the environment with the bro code type culture. How would you help guide any female that may be experiencing this, where she likes her job and wants to belong and be a team player, but not at the expense of sacrificing her own identity as a female and some of her inherent EQ, some soft skills that she'd bring to the table, like empathy, collaboration, servant leadership, and etc.?
Big question. Who wants to go with that one?
I'd love to hear John actually answer that one, but I'm just going to answer it with a non-answer, which is bro culture isn't indicative of men. Bro culture is indicative of dumb men. Yep. Men can be incredibly empathetic and smart and thoughtful and open and progressive, because I've only worked with them my whole life. So I just want to first of all understand that's not a male thing. That's a dumb male thing. And you're allowed to be intolerant of it. That is not the status quo, and it is not indicative of all men. John, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, God, I have so many answers for that one. I think, and stories too, unfortunately. I would tell you, first of all, to Amanda's point, there are definitely men in every company, in every organization who are not like that, who believe in a diverse, collaborative team, no matter where you come from, no matter who you are, no matter what your gender is. So find those allies you can work with them. There will be other women too in the organization that you can lend on. But I guess to build on that is, find the organization that actually values that actually values that, that diversity in the team. And I'll tell you a quick story. When a company I was at a few years ago, we started doing an annual culture survey, and we would get comments. And I love the comments. And my team every year would ask me what my favorite comment was in the survey. And one year it was somebody had said that all this focus on diversity makes me feel threatened as a white male. And so I actually addressed that in the town hall, and I read the quote, and I said, it's anonymous. I'm like, so I don't know who said this. And I just want to say two things. One, I'm sorry you feel this way, and I will miss you. Two, diversity is a value of this team, and it's not going to change. So you need to find organizations that value it.
That's great. I'm going to move on to, who's got the next question? I think Michaela?
Yes, I do. Okay.
Okay.
In recent years, there's been a lot of theme of achieving gender parity in tech, and some great strides have been made. When advocacy and awareness in the area is important, it has had in many cases division and imitation in an already competitive field against male and females. How do we address inequality and stereotypes concerning male and females in an environment where unity is a must to achieve success? And what does it look like? For example, having workshops, more team outings, transparency, changing cultures, etc.
That's a big question. There's some good questions coming from the audience. Leslie, would you like to attack that one? Or Andrea?
I was just going to say, look, I think part of it goes back to what Amanda said about bro culture, but I think the real part is that it's about creating a workplace where everybody feels comfortable, and that you're measured and valued based on your contributions and what you bring to the table, regardless of your gender, your identity, self-identity, your race, and really that you open up the door. And I think that becomes really important. And when you do that, you create an environment where equity and gender, and you don't have these competitions or disputes based on gender or race or anything else. You have an environment where people respect each other and treat each other. And by the way, respect doesn't mean all the way that everybody always everybody likes each other, right? By that, I mean that everybody is best friends. It means that they work well together, they collaborate well together, and because people are different, and you don't expect everybody to be the same. That's what makes diversity inclusion so terrific, is because you learn to engage and be with people who may sometimes even think differently than you think. Amazingly, we live in a culture now where somebody has a different opinion than you, all of a sudden they're your enemy. And that's not the case at all. That means they have a really different perspective and background that you might be able to learn from. So I think it's about creating an environment where that can happen, where people can comfortably disagree without being insulting or offensive, where people's differences are recognized and valued, not seen as threatening. That's the most important thing.
Thank you, Andrea. That was so insightful and so important for today's culture. I think we've got a question. Sunshine, do you have a question?
Yeah. Hi.
Okay. Hi, Sunshine. Speak up loudly because I know you're soft-spoken.
Okay, so in the fall, I'll be attending a four-year university, and my question is, what current and upcoming roles are hot for women in tech? What are some of the notable pathways? And since the pandemic is going on, how would I go about these pathways with the changes in the world?
Leslie.
Yeah, unmuted. Wow, what's hot in tech? And anybody can chime in as well. Definitely coding will be. I read, and the funny thing is I read an article, John was talking about coding that he learned years ago that's not even important anymore. Well, I read an article that said the cobalt actually is important again because of all the underlying IBM systems that have been used, right? And all these other packages that have been put on top of those those particular IBM platforms. So believe it or not, Cobalt is kind of hot again, and you could get paid a lot of money. Now, I don't know if anybody is going to necessarily teach it, but definitely coding is important. So take a computer programming class. I would say take what you're interested in. There are people who will tell you that, you should get into any type of tech. But you have to have a passion for it, and you have to like it in order to pursue it. Because I pursued electrical engineering, didn't know if I was really going to like it or not. And I stayed the course, and trust me, that course was really hard and made me question it along the way. So programming, definitely hot. Health tech, I mean, that's even more specific. But like biomedical engineering, well, all the things that are happening in terms of trying to track what's going on with COVID-19, right? People trying to figure out if people have temperatures or if they have it. So anything that has to do with biotech is also a hot area to go into. So that could be mechanical, that could be electrical, that could be chemistry. There's just so many different broad areas that go into some of these specific fields.
John, you wanted to add something.
Yeah, I'll 3 quick skills, kind of core skills, and then one thing that's a little bit different. So coding for sure. Programming language almost doesn't matter because you'll find that the concepts carry over from language to language. Just being able to write a software program, is the logic of it is a really valuable skill. 2, learning how to work with data. If it's in spreadsheets, if it's in a SQL table, you'll find that skill set will repeat itself a lot in your career. And then 3, like just networks and security. Security is a huge emerging field in tech. So those are the core tech skills. The other one, it'll sound a little odd, but trust me, this will be incredibly valuable in your career. Figure out how to tell things you learn about technology to non-technical people. So if it's your parents, your grandparents, your siblings, be able to explain technical concepts to them in non-technical ways. You will be amazed at how many times in your career that becomes a very useful skill.
Thanks, John. Anybody else?
I'll jump in with one total it's going to feel like it's out of left field, but I think one of the best ways to sort of give yourself a launching pad for a career is to learn something that took me way too long in my life to learn, which is I am definitely at a point in my life where who I know is so much more valuable than what I know. Start building your network now. You may just say, hey, we're just a bunch of college students, but you are in fact future CEOs. You're in fact future leaders. You might as well begin those relationships now. And to me, the best way to begin a relationship isn't to say, what do I want? But what can I give? Start being as generous as possible to as many people as possible, because you're planting seeds that can be incredibly valuable, or at least just inspiring down the road. So realize you are, as of now, beginning to build a professional network that will follow you the rest of your life. Don't take those relationships for granted.
And that's such an important part. I talk about it all the time. And Amanda, like I make time and space for, young people that I meet all the time. I tell them to connect with me on LinkedIn, and they do. And then I spend weeks, trying to, meet with everybody and talk with them. But it's so important. And don't be afraid to reach out to someone, to add them to your network as you get older too. Most of us will say yes. And what's the worst thing you can get is a no. And then you just go on to the next person that will want to help you. I think thank you, Sunshine, for that question. And I think we've got one more question from Malia.
Yes. As a woman in tech, engineering, and technology, how important is having a male sponsor or mentor in, during, or throughout your career?
Can I take that one?
Sure, Leslie.
So the company that I worked for before Black Women in Science and Engineering was a huge corporation that actually was diverse at almost every level of the company. As a matter of fact, the first, and I believe only, African-American female CEO came from that company. The reason she was able to get to that level is because of the white male president, CEO that was mentoring her along the way and grooming her. And in my career, I've had people who have sponsored or even mentored me that were not Black females, because a lot of the people in the positions that were in the room that made decisions on people were not necessarily Black females. So having a white male as a mentor, as a sponsor, as an ally is all very important for upward mobility.
Andrea or Amanda?
I can't say future or forward looking, like now in this day and age, does it have to be men? But I will only speak from personal experience, which is for sure for the first 10 years of my career in tech, my mentors were all white men. And they were incredibly generous and so helpful. I mean, Mark Ackler and Troy Hennekoff would send me a person a month. They built my entire network. I mean, it's built by 2 people that I can point to. So I think it can be. I definitely spend more of my time around women now. I have women mentors more than ever, women friends, because I just become more of a raging feminist, and I enjoy the company of strong women. But I don't think it is either or. I mean, so much of mentorship is finding someone who likes you and will tell you the truth that you care enough to listen to. So it's more about chemistry than it is specific bounds. Someone not powerful, but really who has your back is going to be a lot more helpful than someone really powerful who doesn't care 2 hoots about you. So I think it can be anything you want it to be, where you find a good connection with someone you trust and respect.
Andrea.
Right. I would just add, I don't think it's either or. It is about building those relationships and being open to getting input and counsel and being willing to seek counsel. You know, oftentimes you don't want to go ask for counsel or advice because you don't want to be seen as not knowing all the answers. Well, it's better. No one expects you to know all the answers. And when you go and talk to people and get them to get to know them and let them get to know you, they vest in you. They get to know you and they care about what happens to you. And that's really important. So.
And I myself too, I mentor all the time, but I also have my mentors. So mentoring is a lifelong thing. We, as everyone on the panel has said, you know, things are always changing. We don't know everything. I learn every day. I make it a habit to meet someone new and learn something new every day. And these have been extremely hard times to meet someone new. But tonight I'm meeting new people here. So thank you. And Malia, thank you for that question. I knew this panel was going to be an amazing panel. And I have to thank each and every one of you of sticking through with us. You know, we dramatically changed this event and you all just supported us the entire way. To everybody in the audience, just know they've put a lot of work into this evening. And I'm so thankful. And thank you for being on this journey with us. The students and all of us at Chicago Tech Academy, we're so happy. And again, thank you very much. And I will say good evening to you guys. And we'll see you back for raising a drink or later in the evening. Thank you. And now I'd like to invite Tiara and Tashira back on screen to continue our program and to give out today's awards. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. That was such a powerful opening address and a fantastic panel. Thank you everyone for being here with us today. So my name is Tashira Little and I'm the Director of Corporate Engagement here at Chicago Tech Academy High School. Little Black Dress Night is an evening where we not only want to celebrate women and diversity in STEM, but we also want to honor our amazing partners that have worked with our students throughout the school year. These partners are working with us to jumpstart an interest in STEM, which will produce more young Black and brown women and men in STEM careers. I know this event is about girls, but please don't forget our Black and brown boys either. They need your investment too. Many of our partners are watching this safely from their homes, and we thank each of you for your participation. I'm here to present our 2020 Most Valuable Partner and our Corporate Ambassador of the Year awards. Our Most Valuable Partner Award is being given to Motorola Solutions Foundation. Their passion for developing a future generation of tech leaders and igniting an interest in STEM is one of the reasons we love working with them. Thanks to Motorola Solutions Foundation, over the course of the last 3 years, our students have developed real technology solutions for first responders that could enhance their communication ability in emergency situations. They have allowed our students access to their Innovation Center their partners, and most importantly, their staff. In addition, they purchased a 3D printer for our school, which we use in many of our classes. They have also been huge supporters of our Corporate Ambassador program and, of course, Little Black Dress Night. ChiTech is grateful for Motorola Solutions Foundation's commitment to educating our future leaders and innovators. Now, I'd like to invite Andrea Bell, Motorola Solutions Foundation's Volunteer Program Coordinator, on screen to accept this award. Andrea, could you please turn on your camera?
Hi, thank you to Shira and to all of those responsible for once again hosting a truly successful event. This is my third Little Black Dress Night, and I will say one of my favorites so far. So congratulations again, and great job pivoting in light of everything. On behalf of Motorola Solutions and the Motorola Solutions Foundation, we just want to thank you for this recognition, but more importantly, for your partnership in exposing students and increasing the access to STEM for women and underrepresented groups. That work is so valuable, and we appreciate your partnership and your work alongside of us to increase that work. So thank you again, congratulations, and we look forward to more to come.
Thank you so much, Andrea. We couldn't have done it without you guys.
Thank you, Andrea.
At ChiTech, we believe that some of the most important learning experiences happen outside of the classroom. And because of this, we created the Corporate Ambassador Program to partner with organizations that share our belief that transformative education and connections to the real world can change lives. The next award is the Corporate Ambassador of the Year Award. This award is being given to Active Campaign because of their commitment to the CA program. And Tiara's holding it up, as you can see. Active Campaign thoughtfully chose 4 mentors to work with a group of 10 juniors throughout this school year. Unfortunately, the school year was cut short and students did not get a chance to fully participate. But luckily, before COVID struck, we were able to have a power lunch with the mentors and visit the AC headquarters. During the visit with their resource group, Actively Black, students learned about motivators and drivers, which I often heard them referencing back in school well after the visit. Taking a tour of your office opened their eyes, and as one student told me, she could see herself working there one day. Now that's real impact. Thank you for sharing your stories, your career paths, and for inspiring our students. Thank you again for hosting Little Black Dress Night last year in your beautiful space, and for being our event sponsor this year. To accept this award, I would like to call Reem Jaglet, VP of Engineering and past Little Black Dress Night panelist, to the screen.
It says I can't turn my camera on. Oh, there you go.
We want to see your face. There you are. Hey, Reem.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm really honored to receive this award on behalf of Active Campaign. I want to say supporting ChiTech is near and dear to many of us at Active Campaign, and especially me, just being a fellow female engineer and technologist. I do want to say, though, that the true heroes are you guys, teachers and students who work hard, show up every day, study, persevere, push through. And I think the determination, having that determination to succeed, even though it might get challenging and tough. So I think the award belongs to all of you guys, but I'm truly honored to be here. And thank you so much. We love you, ChiTech.
Thank you.
And our final award for tonight is going to Jessica Brandenburg. Jessica Brandenburg is the Senior CS Ops Manager for Seismic and has been a Young Women's Leadership volunteer and supporter for many, many years. We were introduced to Jessica 3 or 4 years ago by one of our board members, Tracy McCarthy, and since then, Jessica has been on the host committee for Little Black Dress Night, taught yoga classes to our students, volunteered in a numerous amount of ways, and has always been a thought partner for everyone here at ChiTech. So I'd like to invite Jessica Brandenburg on screen. and she is being presented tonight with the Young Women's Leadership Society Ambassador of the Year Award.
Oh, thank you so much. Very, very touched. This has always been true, but especially now, commitment to service and human relationships is so important. And I value my involvement with ChITech and the Young Women's Leadership Society. I'm very touched by the award. So thank you so much. And as Reem said, this is an amazing school, and the teachers and the students are what makes it so great. So thank you again.
Thanks, Jess.
Thank you, Jess. I'd now like to move us to the next segment of our program, which is our scholarship presentation. I'm going to invite Bonnie Kane from AHEAD on screen. AHEAD is a gold sponsor, and they have the pleasure of awarding one student tonight with a scholarship. So I'm going to turn it over to Bonnie, who's also a part of our planning committee, to lead us into this next segment. Bonnie, you're on mute. Still on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Someone muted me because they know I talk too much already in advance. Behind the scenes, Matt, I knew it. As I was saying, I had the honor and the privilege to present on behalf of AHEAD this year's Young Women's Leadership Society Scholarship. I attended last year's Little Black Dress Night event as an attending sponsor and was immediately drawn in and recognized the value and the importance of the work ChITech does. I was snapping, clapping, and crying throughout the events, trying not to cry tonight because it's already been so beautiful and moving. Ooh. And I'm excited and emotional to be back here today as a sponsor, but more importantly, as a committee member. Every year, ChITech has been fortunate enough to provide academic scholarships to young ladies to pursue their educational paths after high school. And this year is no different. We had 3 seniors part of the Young Women's Leadership Society that applied for the scholarship, which is an extensive process that required a lot of commitment and follow through on their part. I'd like to introduce you to each of them now. First is Sunshine Curry. Sunshine hopes to use this scholarship to attend Harris-Stowe University in St. Louis, where she wants to pursue a degree in nursing. And she's not waiting till then. She's already in the work today, as I learned this morning. When we asked Mr. Javier Tirado, he had this to say about her. Sunshine is a natural leader. She walks with her head high, talks with confidence and enthusiasm, and gets the job done, period. She's also the most spirited and persistent student I've ever had the pleasure of crossing paths with. She's not only committed to her work, but also makes herself available to support the people around her. Her leadership and efforts to succeed are apparent in both of the classes I teach, as I'm sure they shine through her other classes and spaces she occupies. She's an absolute force to be reckoned with. Second is Michaela Williams. She hopes to use this scholarship to attend Southern Illinois University, where she wants to pursue a degree in business. When we asked Miss Abby Valentino about Michaela, she had this to say. This night is meant to celebrate young women. Michaela is one of those young women that deserves to be celebrated. Although Michaela will kill me for saying this, she's one of the most caring people I've ever met, even if she doesn't know it. At the beginning of the school year, she led the senior fundraiser selling candy and soda to her peers to raise money to help lower the cost of senior activities. The money from the fundraiser went to all the students to make these activities cheaper. The act of kindness and this little gesture is just one of the ways Michaela shows how powerful she is. Although I will miss the girl power on the volleyball court and my apples and peanut butter being stolen most mornings, I'm excited to see Michaela continue her life and know she's on to great things. And last, but certainly not least, is Kishana Blumenberg. She hopes to use a scholarship to attend Southern Illinois University, and she will be joining the dental hygiene program. When we asked her teacher, Ms. Sarah Nelson, for a description of Kishana, she said, when Kishana enters my classroom, she sits in the front row. She sits next to Troy, of course, and she works hard all the time. Kishana has been my student for 4 years. She's been part of my Embark family for as long as I can remember, and I'm so lucky to have her in my classroom and in my life. She's curious and courageous, and she tries new things despite her apprehension or what anyone else thinks. She's quick to ask questions and unafraid of those answers. I'm confident Kishana will change the world with her industriousness, and I can't wait to see what comes next for you. I'm so proud of you, Kishana. Whew, big breath. On behalf of ShyTech, I'm so proud to say that not just one, but all three of you deserving young ladies will be receiving scholarships today to achieve your dreams. How do y'all feel about that?
I feel great. I want to thank ShyTech, and I want to thank you too, Bonnie, and my teachers for saying those nice things. Thank you. And I just want to say congratulations to my friends too. They've been my friends since freshman year, so I want to say congratulations to them too.
Thank you. Congrats to my friends, because we all thought one of us is going to get it. But yeah, this was a very awesome thing y'all did for us.
I would like to say congratulations to my friends and thank you for this opportunity. I really needed this. Like, this is like amazing. Thank you.
Fantastic. Friends in attendance here, it's with your support that ShyTech is able to provide these scholarships to deserving young women annually. We invite you to use the chat to share your words of congratulations, which have already been blowing up since I made that announcement, and encouragement for these fine young ladies. Also, I invite you to donate now via text LBDN 2020 to 44321 so that we can continue to do this great work in the years to come. Next, it's my very big pleasure to introduce Ron Guerrier, CIO and Secretary of Innovation and Technology for our great state of Illinois. Ron has more than 20 years of experience managing technology in the private sector and has served as CIO for multi-billion-dollar companies since 2012. He's here today to tell us about what and who inspires him and why institutions like ShyTech are important to Ron as a school brings STEM to underrepresented communities and women in an effort to reduce the digital divide.
Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And I am excited, I am humbled to be asked to speak to this audience and to the great folks at ShyTech. And I'll explain why my excitement is bubbling over. Bonnie, you did a great job with the introductions. You kept the emotion down, which is great. So you can kind of tell the story. I also want to thank Brenda for the keynotes. Colleen, the panel was amazing. I'm a consummate student, and you shared tidbits with Leslie, Amanda, John, and Andrea that were awesome. And Tiara, thank you for everything you're doing at ShyTech. When I went to visit there 2 months on the job a year ago, I was blown away of all the things when it comes to what's going on at ShyTech. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell a quick story, and the story is something that will kind of why I'm here and why I am proud to be an ally for women in tech, especially women of color in tech. So my current job, I am the CIO for the state of Illinois. It also carries the title of Secretary of Innovation and Technology. And so I am humbled at having this opportunity. I got a cold call from the governor and said, hey, would you be interested to serve your home state? And I was like, absolutely. And so for me to do that after 20 plus years in the private sector was something that I was eager and excited to do. And there's many reasons why. I'll quickly talk about what the state is doing, very high level, and then I'll go into kind of the inspiration as to kind of how I not only got where I'm at, but those that inspired me to get where I'm at. So in the state, currently my role, I'm responsible for 50 or so agencies, commissions, and boards, all technology underneath Governor Pritzker's responsibility. And that ranges from healthcare to transportation to the Abraham Lincoln Library. You name an agency, our team is responsible for the technology underneath it. The team is between 1,500 and 2,000 employees and non-employees. And every single day we are focused on making the agency successful, but more importantly, my boss is successful. And my boss is not specifically Governor Pritzker. He's one of them. It's actually all of you. If you pay taxes, I work for you. And that's how I see it. So that is my core responsibility. The team is focused, it's hard driving, and we want to make sure that we move forward to make the state even better than it was yesterday. When it comes to STEAM, I've always had a passion behind STEM and STEAM, which I'll speak to in a second. But things we're doing specifically when it comes to the spaces, we have an amazing team. We have a group CIO, her name is Mary Reynolds, over education. And she joined us from ISB, and she's helping us focus more on what can we do to enable our teachers, our educators, our students with tech. A year ago, a $420 million bill was passed to improve our broadband in the state of Illinois. Earlier, John was speaking about the digital divide, actually several did, and we're definitely aware of that, and we want to improve that. The digital divide is not just in the urban areas like Chicago or East St. Louis or Champaign, but it's also in the rural areas. And so we're focused on making sure we improve broadband in our states. Our state is a little unique. We have something called the Illinois Century Network. All K through 12 is on that network. And one of my teams is responsible for that. So the bill is going to help improve the network, but also expand the network to all corners of our state. So that's extremely important for us to do. So I'm pretty excited about that. And as stated before, in the world of a pandemic, the way I always see it is what was weak gets weaker and what was brittle gets broken. And this pandemic has showed where we have disparities throughout the state and of course throughout the nation. And we're focused on making sure we improve that. Beyond the broadband and the need, and again, I believe John said a great statement, it should be like a utility, and that ultimately is our vision down the road. We actually have hackathons and STEM events. We have a lady by the name of Carol Lewis based in Chicago, focused on a lot of these hackathons in the Chicagoland area. One of them is partnering with ShyTech. And we also have Lorena Larios, who's helping us as well to make sure we touch all parts of the city. So they're both helping us with that. Typically, April is Tech Innovation Month, proclaimed by the governor. Given this month, April was pretty much eradicated due to the pandemic. We will definitely move that forward, but we're definitely moving things ahead of speed. So I wanted to quickly talk about that and where I'm at now. But I think the thing I want to really share with the group, and as Bonnie talked about, is what inspired me to get where I'm at. Because clearly I didn't just pop out and say, okay, I want to be Secretary of Innovation and Technology. So let me tell you a quick story. Next slide, please. So all of us, and I tell stories through images. You're not going to be, you're going to fall asleep through a lot of words. I'm not going to do that to you. I've been to a lot of marketing conferences to see that. Images for me is important because it tells a story. And so to those in the room who are seasoned like I am with a little gray in your beard or a little gray in your hair, you have these moments where you look back. And given everyone's stuck at home, I had a great opportunity to look through some old albums. And looking back, I never would have expected this is where I'm going to be. And the reason I bring that up is the paths that we're on are not always the paths that we end up in. And there's really, in my opinion, no end point. I've had the fortune of being the CIO for Toyota Financial Services for 38 countries. And then Farmers Insurance Group, we are farmers, both of those in LA. And then Express Scripts, a Fortune 25 company in St. Louis, prior to taking the job today. And I bring that up is when I was a CIO at Toyota, it was a rarity to have a person looking like me making roughly a couple dozen trips to Tokyo to talk about technology, right? And I appreciated that, but I realized I was one of a few. And then at Farmers, I also saw in the insurance industry, I was a rarity. But again, when I moved to Express Scripts, I always wanted to look at who are my mentors that would kind of give me vision and purpose. And I realized I was the only Black male CIO in the Fortune 25. And then I knew everything I've been working towards is to improve it so I could actually surround myself with young women and young men that look like me, have my experiences, who will move on up And it starts with me. And something that was stated earlier, I believe was by Amanda, made a statement, it starts at the C-suite. And I take that responsibility very seriously. Next slide. So of course, I'm going through the album and I'm finding some old pics. And on the left-hand side, there's a picture of me in college. I went to University of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana. And I had a whole bunch of odd jobs, as many of you will. And there's definitely a difference between a job and a career. ILLINI. And so I bring this up because I checked all the boxes of all the jobs I had. And it's a lot. And these are all the ones I had from my senior year in high school through the first year out of college. And video store manager, yes, we had these things called video stores. I worked at one. We actually had Betamax and VHS. I was a tour guide downtown for many years, janitor, worked in a slaughterhouse down in Champaign, which also was a butcher job. Solo Cup Company, all those red cups that you see down in Champaign-Urbana, there's a factory there where they all come from. And my job was to make sure they come down the chutes. I would come home with my hands completely red. Pretty amazing. Bicycle mechanic, PC sales and service, maintenance worker, rooftop tar applicator. Imagine Chicago, it's July, high humidity. I'm putting tar on rooftops, but it paid the bills because I had to pay my way through college. And then the final one there was my first corporate job. That one was at Toyota. I was a repossessions agent. My first job at Toyota was to knock on doors and ask for payment or the keys. And that was my first job, real corporate job. And I knew at the end of the day, when I first got that job, I called my mom and I said, Mom, I'm doing repossessions. And she said, oh, baby, that's all good. I'm proud of you. I was like, really? It's like, because you know that's not your end point. That's another mile marker. I was like, okay, Mom, thank you. And so I drove and drove and drove. And eventually I went from that role, repossessions, to the CIO for a whole Toyota division for 38 countries. And technology was that enabler. Y2K came and I took that opportunity to jump into tech and the rest was history. Moved to LA and I was able to kind of move things forward because Toyota at the time was based in Torrance, California, right outside LA. So on the right-hand side is actually me as one of the guest speakers at Dreamforce. And I did it for a few years. And at Dreamforce, you're talking about all the new technology you're doing in front of 150,000 people. And for me, the point of pride was that I could be up there and I could represent not only the city of Chicago, the state of Illinois, but my people and many different things. So for me, there's a journey as I'm sharing with you, and the journey continues. Next slide, please. So I'm also going to share something about STEAM or STEM, put the A in there for arts and become STEAM, of course, is I always felt it connects people. It is the one thing that whether you started from a really impoverished area or you started from behind, if you understand the technologies, it could really change the world. It could change your life. It's just one of those things that really connects folks. And I have two examples up on the screen that I want to quickly share, two of many fascinating people that I've been able to meet. The first one is Colonel Friend. As you see, I'm sitting there, I'm holding a plane. He was one of the original Tuskegee Airmen. I met him at 97 years old. Unfortunately, a year ago at 99, he passed away. But he was a fascinating speaker. And not many people know this. When I interviewed him in front of a group at Farmers, I started something called the Black Professionals Alliance at Farmers Insurance. We brought him in for Black History Month, and he told fascinating stories, and he was sharp as a tack. And two things that I asked him, well, one is, what did you do after a fighter pilot over Nazi Germany? He said, well, I was a UFO analysis. I went to Roswell and I studied UFOs. I was like, totally fascinating, okay. And then at the end, I asked him this one question and the whole audience was like they're leaning forward. Okay, what's he gonna say? And my question was, you fought Nazis over World War II, you dealt with racism, disparity in the 1940s and the 50s. Eleanor Roosevelt was one of your mentors. He has a picture of him with Eleanor Roosevelt literally talking. And I said, what's the one thing that you wish you could have done better at or you could have learned? What's your learning for this audience? And he paused dramatically and he said, learn algebra. And we were like, what? Excuse me? He said, no. He said, learn algebra. If you learn the sciences, if you learn the math, your world is your oyster. And it took me a while, but it helped me when I was doing all the work for the UFOs. So I asked this audience, learn algebra. And it's my way of saying everyone has challenges, overcome them. So learn algebra is a thing that I always remember from Colonel Friend. And actually before he passed, he sent me a signed autograph and we had a chat. So he is an amazing icon of America. The second one is Reverend Jesse Jackson. I was able to meet, and everyone from Chicago definitely knows who Reverend Jackson is. I was able to meet him several times when I was at Toyota because we were really looking forward to more diversity and inclusion within our organization. And so partnering with Jesse Jackson, he came, he visited. We did a lot of things just to open the eyes, because the one thing I've learned through all the corporate roles I've had is in some cases, the blockers don't realize they're blocking. They just don't quite get it. And I know nowadays we have this term called woke. We'll roll with that. They're just not aware. And I think once there's a little bit of awareness and they understand the business case behind, of course, diversity and inclusion, beyond all the other great reasons, it starts changing the dialogue. And again, Reverend Jackson was a presidential candidate, an American icon, and a champion of diversity. So meeting these incredible people, because everyone has something that ties them to technology. The next slide, please. Now, the next slide is someone I think we all know. And this Chicagoan, this icon, this amazing woman, our First Lady, is someone that also has a tremendous drive and focus when it comes to the betterment of our children. And so I was able to meet her at a Salesforce conference, and what was supposed to be a 2-minute meet and greet became a 15-minute discussion about all things technology. She was wondering why was I I was actually the only person of color in line to meet. Everyone else was, no one else was of color. And so we had a great dialogue and conversation about the importance of STEAM, and we just talked about our hometown of Chicago. And so it was great. And so it inspires people to kind of improve the condition. So the connection of STEAM with people is very important. But if we want to really talk about inspiration, I'm going to hit you up with some personal stuff. So if we go to the next slide. The next slide, there's 2 images. On the left-hand side, there's an 18-year-old a Haitian, it's my mom, takes a leap of faith, bets on herself, and immigrates to Chicago. She leaves one of the warmest places on earth in the Caribbean and comes to Chicago with nothing in her pocket. And she works as a nanny and she works her way up into a factory. She is absolutely amazing. She's got my back. And on the right-hand side is just a picture of her actually pre-pandemic, of course, because I haven't been able to see her lately. But she's always had my back. When I went to University of Illinois, she would always send me money through MoneyGram. Many of you may not remember that, the kids, but and she would send me $20 a month. And she didn't realize I had to pay a fee, so I really took home like $16.50. But she always wanted to contribute, and I never told her I was struggling. I just said, thank you, your calls, this attempt. This is at least 2 pizzas and a gallon of gas. But she was always there for me. And as I found these pictures, it just made me have this moment, because I know that the strongness that she brings goes a long way. So my mom is the first inspiration, and I have 2 others I'm going to talk about, women that have inspired me and keep me driving and going. The next slide is someone that is really near and dear to me. On the left-hand side is my older sister, and of course, an updated picture of the 2 of us. So Dr. Judith Allen is absolutely an amazing talent. She has an NYU PhD in child psychology. She went to University of Iowa. She got her master's and bachelor's in 4 years. And then she moved out to New York, and she decided that she's going to focus on child psychology. And the reason she did, and I won't go into much depth of this, is because both of us were products of Foster. We were customers of DCFS at one point. And through those experiences and those hardships, she said, I'm going to parlay this into something that's amazing. I'm going to give it back tenfold for what I went through. And so she and I are thick as thieves. She is essentially my right hand. And she decided to move back to Chicago at the same time I decided to move back to Chicago. So now she runs as a chief operating officer at Communities and Schools in Greektown, and she does mental health and wellness for kids. And she was featured on WGN a few nights talking about how we could get through this pandemic. And that was her way of saying, I'm going to give back in a meaningful way. So kudos to Dr. Judith Allen, my second inspiration. So if we go to the next slide. So the next slide is a contrast. And I've said this before, I believe a woman's DNA equals power and perseverance. Absolutely. There are the strength, the grit, the hustle of a woman, sorry guys, just completely outmatches a guy's. We complain, we get sick, we are down for days, myself included. But a woman's grit is just amazing. And the picture you see here is my mother on the left-hand side at 16, my daughter at 16. And as I look at both of them, I see in the eyes, the look, the perseverance, the looking forward, nothing's gonna get in their way. They're gonna move things forward. And I was able to kind of watch it, grow from it. And I can never complain because I didn't have to make the trek my mom did. And honestly, the challenges my daughter has today are different than the challenges my sister had 20, 30 years ago. So if we go to the next slide, my third inspiration is my daughter. And what I always say is I am now a board member of Jasmine LLC. I'm always gonna be her dad, but I am her board member. She has a board of directors and I am a fixed member of this board. And the image you see there is Jasmine throughout the years. And let's talk about perseverance real quick. In third grade, she realized that she liked this idea of going to University of Chicago. We lived in Los Angeles, Orange County, but she always said that she wanted to go to University of Chicago in third grade. And I said the things that all dads do. You could do it, I'm there for you, I'll be your venture capital. But I was honest, it's roughly a 7 to 8% acceptance rate, maybe 9% at the time. So you gotta work hard, you gotta focus, and you gotta keep your head forward, right? So every year or every other year we came back home to visit family in Chicago, we went to the bookstore, she put on her Converse, and she took the same picture in front of the bookstore. And as you see, over and over again, the final picture on the bottom is a picture of her as an incoming freshman. She made it with a 7% acceptance rate. She worked hard, she ran track, she did what she had to do, and she made it to her dream school. Now her focus is helping back the community, and she's thinking about going to law school. So right now she's studying for the LSAT in her third year. On the left-hand side, I just want to quickly talk about a couple things, how I see as a board member. And I'll say each one of the ladies that I'm talking to, and even the guys, of course, is think about these things. And again, just nuggets of truth, my experiences as a father, but also someone that has been in tech for quite some time. I hate to say it, the gray shows it. Don't try to fit into a box. You know, it's cliche, reshape it. Boxes are meant to be opened and moved and changed, like a trapezoid. One of the gifts you used to get as a kid and the boxes that used to come in, most times you play more with the boxes than the actual gift. Really, really reshape that box. Make trapezoids, circles, triangles. And throughout your career, you can make different shapes, and that's okay. Don't try to fit into a box, reshape it. And the earlier statement about the boys club that was stated during the panel, totally true. And Amanda was spot on the statement. There's a lot of great men out there. Don't listen to some of the ones that are just not the greatest, the bad actors. The second one I'll quickly say is own your personal brand. You're the CEO of your brand. I'll say that one more time. You are the CEO of your brand. And when I say that is, your brand is, do you want to be known as someone that is trustworthy, hardworking, perseverance, people want to work with? Like those are important brand attributes. When you go to the store, you pick the brand that you trust. Be a brand that people trust, right? It's very important that you understand that. And the most important thing I'll say in these days is know your digital brand as well. I'll say it one more time. Know your digital brand. How are you being perceived in social media, right? You might be having fun today, but I'll tell you, those things stay for a long time. And 3, 4, 5 years from now, when a company is looking to do some research, or they're trying to understand and you're a finalist, and they go online and they notice that you did something maybe silly or inappropriate, it could hurt you. So I know it's very hard to see the future of what that role might be, but just be very conscious that your digital brand is extremely important. I know some kids who got into some really great schools. I heard of one student who got into Harvard, and then afterwards he posted some things, or he was actually tagged in something, And unfortunately, they rescinded his offer. And just don't give people a reason to take something away that you earned. So really understand your brand. And that's why you have to be your CEO. The last thing I'll say on the bottom of this page is share your voice. Go back one. Share your voice and bet on yourself. And the reason I want to say this, I want to really just double down on this, is I've been in many boardrooms from Tokyo to LA to wherever it's been. I've been in many boardrooms. And what happens, and I've seen, is that a lot of great ideas happen in prep of a board meeting. Like everyone's excited. We should say this, we should say that, because the big guns are in the next room or the next day we're going to present. Then we get into the boardroom and I notice that some of my female colleagues quiet down. They become wallflowers. And at first it used to perplex me. It's like, why is this happening? And then I realized that they didn't feel like they had a voice. And so I would actually take them aside. I would ask them what's going on. And they'd say, hey, John has it, Bill has it, I'm fine. No, you're not fine. You had that great idea a day before. I want to hear your voice in the room. So as an ally, I often say, wait a second, Tamika, I thought you had a great idea in the prep meeting. Do you want to share it real quick? I actively look at the room and make sure that all the voices are heard. And so as an ally, I think that is something that we're responsible to do. And of course, bet in yourself. If you see a job that has 8 opportunities and you think you could do only 6 and you say, I can't do all 8, don't do that. Apply for it. Guys will apply for it. They'll apply for things that they think they can't even do. My first job in tech, I applied for it, but on the flight to LA for the interview, I read AS400 for Dummies, which is an old mainframe app. I literally did that. So during the interview, I hit some good right words, and then I learned it on the job the first year. That's what I did. So please don't sell yourself short. I believe some of the panelists said that as well. So we'll go on to the next slide and the final one. So this one, I just close with this one, is that there are a lot of historic figures that have done amazing things. And what I want for the ladies that are listening to this, the young ladies who are about to move on to Southern Illinois, wherever schools, college in St. Louis, wherever, is that you can do this. And there has been a generation of people who have spearheaded things, made change. This image is from one of my favorite movies, Hidden Figures. Many of you may have seen this. And there's a quote at the bottom that I added. And the quote is, any sufficiently advanced technology is equivalent to magic. Arthur C. Clarke said that. He was a futurist in the 1960s. Again, any sufficiently advanced technology is equivalent to magic. What I added to the right-hand side is nobody can make magic better than you. It's true. Black girl magic. It's meaningful. So with that being said, that's the closing. I could have talked for a while because I'm very passionate about this, but I'm passionate about what ShyTech does. I'm passionate about everything that you're going to do. I am a huge fan of everything you're working on. And one day I will probably be working for you outside this role in another capacity. So thank you very much. And I'll hand the baton back to Bonnie or Keith. I believe it's one of the two. Thank you.
I'm here. Thanks, Ron, for those some words. And I think of when I was in college, my mom used to send me Domino's when I was running out of food. So it's a great connection. We've had a couple while we were planning for this event. So thanks for sharing all that. This has been quite an event. I'll say I'm just blown away by everything that's going on in the background, everything that's going on in the chat, and just fantastic event. So I think one thing that's kind of jumping out to me here is the experience that we have as humans, and that diversity of experiences and the skills that come with those that make us stronger and help us all move forward. At ShyTech, we utilize engaging projects in our classrooms, and we work really hard to incorporate real world experiences outside of ours. And that's one of our underlying principles of our work here and of the ShyTech family every day. So everybody I serve with here at ShyTech is focused on giving our students the experiences so they can dream big dreams, and they can then go and beyond to achieve those dreams. So on behalf of ShyTech, the students here, the families that we support, the teachers who serve all of those families and students, I just want to thank all of you for your support. For supporting equity and opportunity in education here. So it's time to bring the founder of the Young Women's Leadership Society back and the driving force behind this event. Miss Wee there?
I am here.
Sweet.
This
was awesome.
Powles. For those of you that don't know, Mr. Powles is the principal of this thing. So thank you so much for the introduction. I thought you were going to say that.
I was going to say that I was the principal of the school.
Yes.
I'm very shy when it comes to that, but yes, it's good.
Thank you all. I hope you enjoyed the panel discussion, hearing from our students, and Ron's closing keynote. If you know me, you know that this is easily my favorite event of the year. For me, hearing from our speakers and panelists was heartwarming, motivating, inspiring, and all of the above. For so many of you, this may be the only time you think about Chi Tech during the year. However, we think about all of you all year long. In many ways, this event has become a part of our identity. If even for just a few weeks out of the year, thanks in no small amount to this event, our young women are reminded of what all of their education, hard work, and support of each other's success is truly about. I know my job is done. The women of Chi Tech are working on carving out their own paths to success, and many are using your insight to support and help identify that pathway. Our panelists represent what the future holds if our young ladies are strategic about their destinies. Our guests, everyone logged on with us tonight, remind them that education and networking are two of the surest ways to control your own fate. And for that, I thank each of you for being with us. Thank you to those of you who have made donations, and I encourage you to continue to do so or are planning to make a donation tonight. And thank you to those who have taken a larger role in checking in with us throughout the year. I could go on and on about what all of the ladies mean to me, how much they have changed my life and motivated me to continue this work, what they are in the process of working through, and who they are working on becoming as well. Because I have spent the last 9 years of my life at Chicago Tech Academy, I literally could go on and on. For those of you who have had the opportunity pre-COVID-19 to meet our students, you know that their stories are life-changing. Their personalities are huge, and their passion to be a better version of themselves every day is motivating to me, and they are the reason why we are here tonight. At Chicago Tech Academy, we don't just provide an education. We provide students with a trajectory for a better life. To our guests, I want you to know that you are here with us tonight for a reason. Because you believe in education and what it means to our city and our country. With your help, we will break the cycle and remove barriers to success, starting with the students at Chicago Tech Academy. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask you to stop and think for a minute about the differences your contribution can make in the lives of our young women. Everyone like Kishana, Sunshine, Malia, and Michaela. We host this event every year to celebrate the men and women who are paving the way for our students, but also because we have to raise critical funds to provide a quality, well-rounded education for our students. If you have the capacity, I encourage you to make a gift today to support the next generation of entrepreneurial thinkers and leaders. Each year, we strive to close the gap between educating our students and the true cost of a Chi Tech education. Of course, there are other ways to get involved, but investing in our school tonight and on an ongoing basis will allow us to continue to disrupt education just as our speakers have disrupted the tech industry. 3 years ago, our student speaker, Shemaya McCall, shared the following quote: "We can't become what we need to be by remaining who we are." I live every day of my life reminding myself of that. I mention this to remind everyone here that change is hard. Whether personally or professionally, the fact remains that in order to become everything we want to be, we're going to have to embrace change. We are going to have to head fearlessly into new barriers and new territory with a belief that the best is yet to come. and the best involves the students at Chicago Tech Academy. We have an ongoing commitment to change the narrative, change lives, and change the face of tech, STEM, and entrepreneurship in our city and across the world. And I encourage you to join us on this journey. For everyone who has told themselves that they want to give back, but just haven't found the right organization, look no further and find your place at ChiTech. Give tonight by texting LBDN 2020 to 44321 and support the next generation of leaders. I am so thankful that all of you all have joined us, and I hope it goes without saying that we value the support and value each of you. This now closes out our formal program, but I do encourage you to stick around for our happy hour, which we're going to be moving into right now. Thank you again, and I so appreciate the support. Our next speaker tonight, and maybe not necessarily a speaker, but our next host for this segment is Eaton Lauren. Eaton Lauren is managing partner of world-renowned James Beard award-winning bar, The Violet Hour. She has taught mixology and the history of cocktails at Kendall College, launched She, an all-female cocktail catering company in 2012, and co-founded 10 Inc. Consulting, concentrating on product development and beverage programs internationally. She created and produces a retail line of cocktail mixes called TVH Plus, and you can check out the old-fashioned mix at Benny's. Please join me in welcoming Eaton Lauren.
Thank you, Tiara. Can you all hear me okay? All right. So thank you very much. What an incredible event. And Tiara mentioned a few of the projects that I've worked on. And with the Violet Hour, I was really excited to be able to come and participate and collaborate and make a drink that we can sip on and we can talk about some drinks. But before I do it, I just want to say a couple personal things. One, in such a tremendously challenging time, the sense of hope and strength that something like this and the community that comes together and how much you're supporting this cause, it's motivating, it's empowering. I think there was like 3 times that I like threw up a fist or I was like clapping out loud during the panel discussion. And I'm just so appreciative to be a part of it. So thank you. In addition to my cocktail work, last year I launched a women's well-being brand, and it's called NYSSA, N-Y-S-S-A. And the idea behind it is creating conversation and products around the realities of being a woman, around what we call the unmentionables of womanhood. And I bring it up because I found such a strong overlap with the work that you're all doing and the mission of this event. And it makes me so grateful that I could be part of it. So thank you. I wanted us to make a cocktail that could speak to what we're experiencing, but also the access that we might have to ingredients, and also have it be enjoyable and kind of put all these layers into it. And what I landed on was a cocktail called the Spritz. And if some of you received the email, or if you see that recipe and you want to build it with me, we can do that. But I'm going to kind of talk through it, and then I'm going to talk about how we can tweak it or change it based on ingredients that we might have or the products that we have at our home bar. So the Spritz is kind of a fun drink. At the Violet Hour, we like to look at pre-prohibition style cocktails. So drinks before the boom of cocktails, when you had more refined spirits, limited ingredients, and trying to keep drinks a bit more simple than where they skew nowadays. And the Spritz was an interesting concept for a drink because it was a riff on an Americano, if anyone's had one of those, which is just a riff on a Negroni. It was this evolution of drinks. In the early 1900s, we started to see the incorporation of soda and bubbles in drinks. And that's where we get this kind of quintessential spritz. The spritz that I'm making today is with Aperol. So Aperol is a liqueur that uses heavy rhubarb. Aperol is also an Amaro. Amari are Italian liqueurs, and by liqueur I just mean that it is a spirit that has a sweetener added post-distillation. It can be honey, it can be refined sugar, it can be caramel, but they tend to be a little bit sweeter and also have bittering agents in them. Amari are liqueurs that come from Italy. And what's really fascinating about Amari is that they're going to have the flavor profile and the ingredients of the region, which in Italy can vary significantly. So up in the north where there's the Alps, you have a lot of alpine herbs. You're gonna have a lot of flavors like a gin, florality, for instance. Where down south, you have a lot of fruits. So you're gonna have citrus notes and richness that comes from the earth. Aperol is from Milan, so vaguely middle north-ish, and uses heavy rhubarb, quite a bit of dried orange, dried lemon. It is a lower ABV spirit, but it has a lot of complexity to it. And classically, we saw this in spritzes. So something that was easy to drink and that was fortified, but we have different people around Italy trying to modify drinks at this time. So finding fortified wines become more popular, but they wanted to drop the proof so that it tasted a bit more like a beer. Then we had others that were sipping, they're stirred, very booze-forward drinks, but wanted to last all day long and have a drink that they could have during the day. And so then we have the birth of the spritz. At home, I can't imagine that everybody has this set up in their living room. And I mean, for the sake of all the work that you're doing, maybe we should, but this is kind of like the bartender lock-in setup. So I'm going to use jiggers because I have these tools. The thing about a spritz is that it's a two-touch cocktail. So have fun with it. I don't think that we need to be too precious with our measurements, but just to talk through some of the tools, I'll use a jigger. So this is a Japanese style jigger, 1 ounce and 2 ounce. And you'll see most recipes, definitely most traditional builds of recipes are going to fall in that area. When you get to more complex or even like tiki cocktails, then you'll start to get into really small measurements. For right now, we're going to keep it easy, which also helps when you're on number 3 of these drinks. I'm not. It was hard because I was trying not to sip, but I did just water. So we're going to pour Aperol in before we put anything else in. The reason why I'm doing this is a liqueur is really viscous. And by that, I mean, it's fatty and it's going to cover your tongue. It has sugar in it. It has those roots and those barks and those flavor additive agents. So we want to make sure that it's very well incorporated in a drink. You often see this style of liqueur in a shaken cocktail because it needs water content, even though it's a low ABV. So it's really interesting. And then we use champagne. And I'm going to measure out 4 ounces of champagne. Don't worry if you're bubbly. I'm not even going to measure because I'm getting too many bubbles. And now I can add my ice. Like I said, this drink being so easy. In a second, I will make one that has a little bit more riffing on it. But as a classic, you don't have to do too much to make such an interesting cocktail. I add my ingredients in, and then I'm going to incorporate the ice a little bit. I chose a glass that is a very wide top so that bubbles can actually escape. The idea is that you're using the gravity of the carbonation to incorporate your drink and to add more depth. And you don't want to lose that with a glass that's very small or something that doesn't allow movement. And now the other ingredient that not a lot of people talk about, but I think is super important, is your garnish, right? So this is a perfectly fine mixed drink, but you can really elevate a cocktail depending on how you garnish it. Using ingredients like Amari give you this perfect channel. These have so much complexity. They have that floral note, they have the fruits that are in it. So I want to do something that mirrors the orange, and I'm going to use an orange peel to garnish the drink. When you're peeling, please be very careful. That's a lot of experience saying that and lost fingernails, but you're just going to take a peeler and you're going to peel off the bit of fruit, making sure that you're not getting any of the actual fruit or the pith. That's really important because that will change the dynamic of your drink. And we have our little peel. We hold it about 6 inches above the glass and we squeeze. Pith side up because you're using the oils that's in the fruit to balance out the cocktail. And then we stick it right inside. If you're serving it to somebody, you want to serve it so that their nose is getting right in it, that their first, second, third sips are going to get the oil to kind of balance out the sweetness of the liqueur. And I would say, someone just posed this question to me yesterday, is when is the perfect time to drink a drink like this? Anytime. I'd say, especially we know now you're not required to have fancy pants on. I think that this is a very light cocktail that you can play with all day long if you're trying to have a fancy lunch, if you're trying to have an early happy hour, but also keeping in mind that when you have food with a drink like this, that you don't want something that's so heavy that it's going to block the flavors and make it difficult to enjoy. Normally we'd be all together and we'd sip it and I would say, does anyone have any questions? So now I'm going to pretend that you don't, and I'm going to go on to the next drink. And what I wanted to do was think about having a spritz when you're week 8-ish in your house and not totally, sure what's going to get delivered on time or what you'll have access to. So what I did was took some kind of older strawberries that were still very good, but just maybe not as pretty. And I thought this would make a delicious spritz. I'm going to muddle them. So using the flat end of my muddler just to get some of that juice and that fruit out. And then for this one, I'm going to change up the Amaro that I'm going to use. And I am going to use Apolog because I wanted to feature a local brand. So an Amaro has to come from Italy, but there's still amazing liqueurs being made all over the world. And one is being made in our backyard. So Apolog comes from Chicago. They are a newer company, only a few years old, but they have an incredible portfolio. Celery root liqueur, the Aronia berry, pawpaw, and persimmon. This one being my favorite. What I think is really fascinating about Apolog is that spirits, especially for how long these have been around, is not a category that really gets shifted or changed. Not a lot of disruption. People like to try to convince you, but then you're like, that's creme de cacao. And I've had creme de cacao since late 1800s. However, Apolog did 2 really significant things that I think the beverage industry has found very impressive. And one is that they're a B Corp. So having social giving and social awareness as part of their program right from the beginning was really interesting. But the other is that they put every ingredient on the back of the bottle. And with a liqueur, although we can trust that there's a lot of history and a lot of interesting ingredients that are being put into the product, we don't always know what it is. They are not required to list it and they don't have to impart that information. And honestly, caramel coloring could have a carcinogen added to it. There could be essential oils that we don't know if they're very healthy that can be added to it. So the fact that liqueurs made change and has this new standard of giving all the information and transparency, I think is pretty brilliant. And because of that, some of the ingredients that it lists, I can kind of play with. So hibiscus flower, orange, lemon, gentian root, just to mention a few. Now I have my strawberry, and I'm going to stick some of my persimmon in there. And I'm doing 2 ounces for this as well. The thing is, for a drink like this, play. I happen to have access to orange, and to me, orange and persimmon are incredibly complementing flavors. If, for instance, I had blackberries, I may choose an Amaro, if I have one, that uses darker sugar. So when you look at like Ramazzotti coming out of Italy, that uses a lot of cola root and tastes very rich and uses caramel. Things that play with these flavors will add a lot more depth to your drink, even if it's just you enjoying it yourself in front of a movie. It makes it an even more pleasurable experience. Because of the orange, I'm going to add another orange slice. And actually, I'll give that some little. And then some champagne. Spritzes have shifted so many ways over the years. There's argument that soda water adds another type of bubble that works well with champagne, so splitting between soda and champagne. I think it's great to have theories on that. As long as it tastes good, I'm a fan. I would also say if you had ginger beer in your back bar or in your fridge, that's an amazing compliment when creating a spritz. There's so many ways that you can shift it. Even syrups, playing with syrups yourself, if you have a drier liqueur that doesn't put too much sugar into the drink, then playing with anything, take a simple syrup and add some lavender to it. And now you have a really elevated floral spritz. And then also adding a little bit more of a spirit, another base spirit, is a great additive. So gin can be added to a spritz, even rum. This cocktail is often referred to in the restaurant industry as escapist. So in the winter, in the Midwest, you will often see a few drinks that have a flavor profile similar to this. And that is because you need an escape from what's going on outside. For instance, having 4 inches of rain in 24 hours is a good reason to have an escapist cocktail. So I think anything that really plays and drives those flavors is going to be a success. And now, just to add a little bit of a pop of color and make it a little more enjoyable, I'm using some lime peel. And this is a nice oily lime, so it puts some really good zest on top. And we have my riff on a spritz, my riff on a riff on a riff of a spritz. And so I did want to raise my glass. I wanted to thank Tiara and your team. I wanted to say thank you for everything that you have done, and what an exceptional pivot. Colleen, thank you for bringing me in. And the students, though you're not supposed to be watching at this time, if you are, I just want to say congratulations. You guys are going to change the world. I feel so calm and confident knowing that you'll be in charge. So thank you, and cheers, y'all. And now for some reason I can't hear anyone else. So I'm just gonna take.
Thank you so much.
From you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you, Eden.
That was fun.
One thing I'm sorry that I forgot to mention. The Violet Hour would like to donate a class. So up to 4 people that we can go really in depth. Hopefully it is from 6 feet apart, but at the bar. If not, maybe it's virtual. but we have a really extensive programming on cocktails, and we dive into the classics, and you make them and you do them. And so if you please donate, you will be entered into a raffle to receive access to the class. So thank you.
Thanks, Eden. And you wouldn't believe the amount of chatter going on about they love the science behind the drinks and how impressive you are. And so thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you. Thanks, you guys. What an incredible program.
Who wants to say goodbye to everybody? Sierra?
Yes, I'm here. So we do still have some guests online. Wanted to make sure that you all know that anyone who gives tonight does have the opportunity to win that class that Eden just mentioned, and a workshop offered by General Assembly up to a $250 value. So if you haven't already given and you want to be entered in that raffle, make sure you do so. And I just want to close out by saying that this event is so important to all of us. We have Terry Howerton on camera right now. He's the founder and board chairman of Chicago Tech Academy, along with Colleen and Brenda, who are board members as well. So we're just really grateful for the support. The work that we do in the city is so important, and the students that we serve are amazing, and the possibilities that they have are endless. We also have some Chi Tech staff members online. TJ is online. I know Abby's around here somewhere, but she's not on camera. They have been behind the scenes helping us, along with Ms. Strong. I know she's somewhere around as well. So just want to acknowledge those folks who have played different roles behind the scenes. And Betsy as well. I see her name, but I don't see her on video. Betsy has been a part of our planning committee, along with Brittany Bright, Jessica Brandenburg. We have had a lot of people supporting us to get to this point and to transition to an online format. And as you all saw today, we were truly in a live format. So nothing here was pre-recorded, and we're really happy of what the turnout was and how great the event was for everybody. So I'll stop right there. Colleen, anything you want to add?
I just want to say thank you to everyone. We, in the midst of a pandemic, we had hoped to double our fundraising for this year, but with the pandemic, we scaled it back, but I think we're doing really great. Before we started this evening, we were probably about 70% to our goal. We are probably 50% to raising our goal tonight. So if you're still watching, if you enjoyed this program like we did, if you cried like I did, if you feel inspired by the students and everyone that worked so hard on this, please think about texting. Even $1, it all helps. LBDN, that's Little Black Dress Night, LBDN 2020 to 44321. And you can donate tomorrow too. Thank you. Anybody else? I think we're good. It's been a long night. I appreciate everyone sticking with us for so long. I've had a million texts, emails saying how moved they were, how wonderful it was, how they teared up as well. Sometimes it was their first time. They thanked us for inviting them. And if you imagine us doing this well during a Zoom event, imagine what this is like in person. So I really encourage everyone to follow Chicago Tech Academy, to get involved, to sponsor our events, to even do lunch and learns at the school, to offer mentorships, anything you can. We appreciate it, and we could not do it without you. And as my friend Maria Catras started earlier in the pandemic, united we tech, and it is absolutely true. Thank you, and good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night, everybody. Did Colleen leave already? She left.
I think she did. Good job, Tiara.